Hey guys, yeah, I know, it's definitely been a while since I last did a DVD and Blu-ray collection update video because I've been flat broke ever since the last one I did because I spent all my grad money at that time, and now I just blew a bunch of my birthday money. I want to thank all you who wished me happy birthday both on my Facebook page and here on my YouTube page as well, and I ended up celebrating it not only with my friends but also I got some gifts from them, and I bought a lot of movies, so we're going to get to them right now. But before I start, I have an annotation above me about right here in which you can check out this podcast I did with my friend Film Recall, in which we discussed our most anticipated and least anticipated movies for the rest of 2011, where we also shared our biggest disappointments as well, so make sure to check that out if you get the time if you haven't already. Now I only have 4 DVDs to show up because this is going to be a very heavy Blu-ray video, of course, because I mean come on, Blu-rays kick DVDs ass all the time. The first 2 of the 4 DVDs I got are classic war movies, and the first one is Battle of Britain, which I've never even heard of really that much, but from when I looked at the cast, by the way, these were given to me by my friend Adam right here. This looks good from what I've seen, and when can you not go wrong with the cast in this? Michael Caine, Laurence Olivier, Ian McShane, Christopher Plummer, that's already enough for me to see it. I'll definitely have time to check it out, but not as much as all these other movies that I'm trying to see, but I'm definitely going to check this out because I heard it's one of the greatest war movies ever. The next one is Guns of Navarone, which has legendary actor Gregory Peck and Anthony Quinn, who played the Prince in one of my favorite movies, Lawrence of Arabia. And this looks pretty good as well. If I read the back right here, it says it was nominated for 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, so props to you, Guns of Navarone. The next of the DVDs is one of my all-time favorite comedies and one of my favorite cult classic ones because if you know the band, you'll love the movie, and even if you haven't gotten into the band, you start listening to their tracks after you watch the movie, you'll probably love it as much as I have. That is Tenacious D in the Pick of Destiny. I love this movie so much. The music is fantastic. Everything from the opening song, Kickapoo, which is probably my favorite track. There's also Master Exploder, Car Chase City, the final showdown with Beelzebub. This is just such a ridiculous film, but Jack Black and Kyle Gass are one of the most perfect comedic duos out there, and the songs are very funny in the lyrics as well. I mean, it's a very funny movie. It relies a lot on lowbrow humor a lot and very weird scenes, but if you listen closely to the lyrics of the song, they actually go along with the story of the film as well, which is pretty funny. And the final DVD is one of Kevin Smith's weaker movies. While I still really enjoy it and everything, because every Kevin Smith movie I have seen so far, I've pretty much enjoyed most of it, except for Cop Out because that wasn't written by him, it was only directed by him, so we'll let that slide. But that is Zack and Miri Make a Porno. I really enjoy this movie. It is really, really funny. It has that usual style that Kevin Smith gives to his dialogue, in which he's very self-referential, but he writes dialogue like that better than almost anyone these days, and the cast is really good in this. Seth Rogen and Elizabeth Banks were great together. Craig Robinson was so hilarious. I love that guy and just about everything he does, from The Office up through this and Knocked Up and stuff. And while it is very dirty at times, it's still very funny. Like, if you're not used to Kevin Smith's Viewless Universe movies all the time, give this a look because it's still very funny, even though he's using a lot of Apatow cast members in it. And now to just give you a preview of how big the DVD stack is, look at this. It is like a sea, more than just a sea of Blu-rays, it's a freaking ocean right here. The first 2 were given to me by my other best friend Blake, who's a very avid film buff as well. And the first one is The Fighter. I was really surprised when I saw this movie because I wasn't really looking forward to it last year when it out, because I went, aw, this looks like a typical Rocky movie. We've seen this done before. But once I finally saw this movie, I loved it. One of the best acted ensembles that I have seen. Mark Wahlberg was great, and so was Christian Bale. Just freaking chewed up scenery in this. The guy really dives into characters better than almost anyone does these days. Melissa Leo was fantastic in this as well. She was highly deserved her Best Supporting Actress Oscar as well. But Christian Bale, damn, that guy was incredible in this. And oh yeah, I forgot to bring up that Amy Adams was in this. I can't believe I forgot about that, but she was great in this as well. The whole cast is really good. Just Mark Wahlberg was definitely overshadowed in this film, though, because of the great performances given by Bale, Leo, and Adams. The second one that I also got from my friend Blake is one that I have not seen before, but it's from one of my favorite filmmakers, James Cameron. and that is Aliens, in which I've surprisingly never seen this movie. I'm really looking forward to it though, because I heard this really stepped Ellen Ripley up to the action hero she became in the Alien movies, and I love Sigourney Weaver in just about anything. She's a great actress and a true badass of the late 1970s and 80s. I'm really looking forward to watching this. I'll make sure to watch it before I go off to college or when I'm in there, so definitely looking forward to this one. Alright, now we're on to the ones that I actually bought with my own money, and this first one is one that really sticks into the nerd that I am, and that sounded very dirty right there as I said that. I apologize. But it's probably the geekiest movie I've ever seen, but in a great way because it references so many sci-fi things. That is Paul. I know a lot of people said that this movie wasn't as funny as they thought it'd be, but if you're a true geek, you love Spielberg movies, you love the X-Files, nearly any sci-fi movie you can think of, it's referenced in here. And it is so funny because they poke fun at Close Encounters, E.T., even Indiana Jones at some points of Spielberg movies. If you're a Spielberg geek, you're gonna love this movie because of how much it pokes fun at all his movies, but it's also smart in the references it makes to other movies like Predator, Alien, and it has a lot of X-File pokes, especially with Jason Bateman's character. The whole cast is terrific. It has one of the best comedy ensembles I've seen in years, and hey, more Sigourney Weaver, which just makes it even better. Next is one of my favorite comedies from 2008. It never gets old in my opinion, and I find new jokes that I didn't laugh at before, and I think the director's cut is even funnier than the original cut, which doesn't really happen that often. That is Tropic Thunder. This is a movie that I can watch whenever, all the time, because it is so funny and so sharp in its satire, not only on war movies, but Hollywood in general, and the different types of actors that get together in movies. The cast is fantastic. Ben Stiller did a really good job directing this movie as well. And this is one movie that my friends and I, we quote nearly every day. We'll drop down nearly every famous punchline from this movie and just randomly say it in the most random parts of the day, but it never gets old because of how hilarious this movie is though. Next is one extremely ridiculous movie that released last year, and sure, it definitely had a huge 3D gimmick in it, which wasn't all that good in the end, but it was still so ridiculous. But it's a funny story because my best friend who I went with, Blake, he hated this movie, but I loved it. And that was the Piranha remake. I thought this was one of the most ridiculously entertaining movies I have seen in years. Sure, it's stupid at times, but it's so self-aware of what it's doing. One of the goriest movies I have ever seen too, but it's so much fun and done in such a well-made way by Alexander Aja. And the guy already made one great horror remake, which was The Hills Have Eyes, in which I love this movie. Like, you can say what you want, but it is such a great ode to old exploitation movies that I enjoyed just about every minute of it because it was so self-aware of what it was doing. Next up is two Kevin Smith movies, one I have not seen and the other which is one of my cult favorites of his. The first one is one that I haven't seen, of course, as I said, and that is Dogma. Great cast already. Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Alan Rickman, Chris Rock, and Chris Rock will go on to star in the other Kevin Smith movie that I also have with me on Blu-ray, which I haven't seen this, but since it's a satire on religious hypocrisies, that's what got me intrigued to it. Not just the fact that I'm a Kevin Smith fan, but when it comes to religion, that's a debated topic of mine sometimes, which I won't give away reasons why, but I'm really looking forward to watching this. I've never seen it in my life, just seen the trailer, so yeah, Kevin Smith for the win. And the other one is a cult favorite of mine, as I said before. Not everyone appreciates this movie as much as most people do, but I do with that category. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Such a funny movie. Really great to have those two characters have their own movie for once. And Jason Mewes is so funny as Jay, as usual. And Kevin Smith does Silent Bob great again in this film. But it has a really good cast. I mean, you even have characters from Chase and Amy that appear in this, which made it even better. And sure, it's definitely one of the weaker View-esque universe movies, even though I haven't seen Mallrats yet. But still, who cares? This movie is so funny. And there's a lot of Easter eggs to be found with previous Kevin Smith movies that appear in this, especially the Moobies restaurant, or I could be wrong, that was actually in Dogma, so my bad. Next is one of my favorite action movies of all time, and I never wanted to see it at first because I remember some people weren't that big fans of it, especially some people I know, but then I found that John from the Flick Pick channel, who's one of my favorite YouTubers, and Chris Stuckman, who's my favorite YouTube movie critic, said he loved it as well, so I finally watched it, and I loved it actually. Point Break. This is such an awesome, kick-ass action movie. Some of the best shot action I've seen, and the surfing sequences are really great to look at. The robbery sequences are staged so well, and that ending skydiving scene. How can you not love that for how over the top it is? And it's got classic Keanu Reeves acting in it, which this, along with Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, literally invented him the surfer dude talk, because it's the only way he really speaks in this. But oh yeah, Gary Busey, awesome. Anything with Gary Busey is hilarious, especially this. Next up is one of my favorite creature fests of all time. It was a remake of a 1950s movie, if I'm not mistaken, from one of the greatest cult directors of the 1970s and 80s, John Carpenter's The Thing. Not only does Kurt Russell give one of his best performances in this, but the amount of tension that it builds up all the way up through the movie until the end, and the practical effects of the creature were revolutionary for its time. When you see that scene in which the doctor is examining this guy trying to revive him to life, and it has to do with the scene with defibrillators, that's where the movie just really kicks into overdrive, and you really get to see how revolutionary practical effects were back then. This is such a great Creature Fest film. If you have not seen The Thing, do yourself a favor in watching it. But I love this movie so much that I'm actually not looking forward to the prequel at all, because you cannot touch a Carpenter classic like this. They already made that mistake with Assault on Precinct 13, which I have right behind me about right here. Next up are two of my favorite Judd Apatow movies, also very quotable, especially with my friends and my family members. That first one is Forgetting Sarah Marshall, one of my favorite comedies, also one of the greatest relationship breakup comedies. All the relationships feel so real, and Jason Segel is just one of my favorite comedic actors these days, because not only is he such a likable guy, but he really plays comedy so well. Kristen Bell is really good in this too, and also Mila Kunis is really hot, of course, as usual, but she gives a very great performance as well. Russell Brand, this is how we all got to know him in this film. He was hilarious, and definitely one of the best relationship romantic comedies I've seen. Also very raunchy at times especially, but still one of my favorites. And another Judd Apatow comedy that's also one of my favorites, extremely quotable, one of the greatest pregnancy comedies I've ever seen. That's of course Knocked Up, the way we got introduced to Seth Rogen before he ended up starring in Superbad. He was hilarious in this film. The whole cast is terrific. From him to Jason Segel yet again. Martin Starr is hilarious in it. You also got Jay Baruchel, Katherine Heigl, Leslie Mann, Paul Rudd, and I'm trying to remember if I'm forgetting anyone else. Oh yeah, Jonah Hill, of course. He was really funny in this too. Just, there's not a pregnancy comedy better than this out there, especially for one that was so raunchy as well. Next is one of my favorite action movies that I've seen, and it's definitely a very underrated one because not a lot of people saw it, and that is The Rundown with The Rock and Seann William Scott. I think if I'm not mistaken, let me see if I'm right here. Oh yeah, Christopher Walken, I was right. He's the villain in this movie. Very underrated action film. The Rock kicks all sorts of ass in it. Seann William Scott's playing his usual character, but Peter Berg directs this movie very stylish, and it's very action-packed in the end. I mean, this movie doesn't get enough credit most of the time, even though it was a hit. Really check this out, though, if you're a true fan of The Rock, though. Definitely one of his best movies. Alright, so we're down to the final four, but this next set counts as a trilogy, kind of course, in which I recently reviewed the fourth movie, so you can already expect what this is going to be right here. And you can hear that crunch because a lot of the stickers these stuck to it. And that is the Spy Kids trilogy on Blu-ray right here. This was such a childhood favorite of mine. I grew up with this series. I really liked the first one. I even liked the second one even more almost. The third one's definitely not better than the first two because it went for more of a video game approach, of course, in which the movie technically was kind of a video game. It was still pretty fun though, but if I had to rank my favorites, it would be 2, then 1, and then 3. So, yeah, still a great franchise for me. It really means a lot for my childhood, and it's one of those trilogies that really worked for Robert Rodriguez, especially the Mexico trilogy did too. Definitely check that one out as well. El Mariachi, Desperado, Once Upon a Time in Mexico. I promise I'll add those at some point as well. The last Blu-ray, which was one I picked up today because I picked up all the others on my birthday on Saturday, but this one is one of my favorite action movies. It's my third movie in my John Woo collection of the movies I own of his. The only one where he had creative control over completely, and that is Face Off. Just amazing performances by John Travolta and Nicolas Cage, who both, they inhibit their characters so well, and the transitions that they make are amazing, and also direct some incredible action sequences, including of gunfight in an airport, an ambush at a hotel, and the boat chase towards the end. Really great action movie. Definitely check it out because I am a huge Nicolas Cage fan, and this is always going to rank as one of my favorite performances of his. So that's the big Blu-ray video for you guys, and I really hope you enjoyed it along with the few DVDs I had. Make sure to check out that podcast I did with Film Recall as well. I don't know what I'll be reviewing completely this weekend, but I'm going to be reviewing Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, Columbiana, and maybe even Our Idiot Brother, but there's also a documentary I'm going to check out called Senna, in which I'm not completely sure I'm going to review it, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. So in the meantime, I'm Tyler from Comic Critic Reviews. Thanks a lot for watching this video, and I'll see you guys later.